All right, what's up, everybody? We're back again, taking a look at another quarterback battle, but this time it is LSU out the SEC. And once again, an incredible quarterback battle that will be taking place. I'm back with Quarterback Spotlight. How are you today?
I'm good, Ty. How you doing, brother?
Man, never bad when we're talking about quarterback battles. So this is one that you've been super excited about. And before we hop into it, y'all don't forget, hop down, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, like the video, and be sure to go over to Quarterback Spotlight's channel because he makes constant quarterback content that is top notch. And so this battle is something that we've been talking about for quite some time. What is it that excites you about this battle in particular?
So I think, just like we were talking off air, I think you got three legit guys that could start at multiple Power Five programs right off the bat. But unlike the competitions we talked previously, being Alabama and Florida, each of those competitions have a favorite, have like a 90% favorite who's probably going to win, whether it's Bryce Young, Emory Jones. Like the consensus out there is they know who's going to win. It's their jobs to lose, but there's still a quote unquote competition going on, right? Almost like there's some coach talk in that. The thing with LSU is it's completely wide open. I don't think there's an actual favored. You depending who you talk to, you've heard, Max Johnson might be the favorite, Miles Brennan might be the favorite, but I think it's truly wide open. And I don't know if there's any there's no like writing on the wall saying who the actual favorite is. I think it's a wide open battle right now.
Yeah, and LSU, I think the only positive here is they actually got to play all three guys that are primarily going to be taking part in this quarterback battle this year. And so because of that, I think that also puts the LSU battle in a unique situation as compared to the Alabama and Florida one. Alabama got to get Bryce some time, and no Alabama fan's going to argue with that. Jalen Milroe, the new guy on campus, Paul Tyson, not new, but not getting that experience. And the same can be said for Emory Jones getting the bulk of the experience, Anthony Richardson not getting that. LSU, they get the benefit of having all three guys come in and be able to kind of showcase what they can do. Now, we were talking before, and you said something really interesting to me, and I want you to kind of break it down. You were talking to me about how you think that maybe TJ and Johnson have super high ceilings, but that Brennan might be the guy because he just understands it so well that he might have by far the highest floor.
Right. No, I think you nailed it. So I think from a talent standpoint and maybe an overall tool and development standpoint, I think Finley and Max Johnson probably have the higher ceiling and probably have more tools to develop. But I think Miles Brennan has the higher floor where, hey, even if he has a bad game or doesn't do extremely well by his standards, it's the bottom's not going to drop off compared to a younger guy where, if he struggles, you could really see him struggle. And we saw it with Finley against Auburn last year, and even Johnson at times. We saw when they struggled, it was a bit too much. But with that said, they have so many tools to develop. And what I like about all three is they all have different tools. Like each one is superior compared to another one in a certain area. Let's say TJ Finley, for example, has an outstanding arm. If you put him arm strength compared to anyone in the country, he's going to be able to have a shot, right? And then we got Max Johnson, who's the better athlete out of the three. He can make plays with his legs, he can make plays outside the pocket, throwing the ball. And you have Miles Brennan, who probably has the best touch and best overall just ball placement and just kind of feel on his touches, on his passes. And that's probably because he has the experience in college, even though not a lot of game experience. He still has that experience in that college atmosphere. So he's been able to throw the ball a lot more to college receivers than Max Johnson and TJ Finley have.
Now, I guess the argument I could make, and it's just kind of a counterpoint to that, because no doubt Brennan does have that most experience. But the two biggest games for LSU last year were that Florida game and then the Ole Miss game in which Max Johnson was playing. So you being a former player, what matters more, length of experience or the quality of experience? Because both of those games, specifically that Ole Miss game, was an absolute nail biter. Yeah. I don't know that you get a bigger moment than that because it's pride on the line, right? If you've seen a lot of my content, you'll know that one thing I talk about specifically with OU, and the reason I'm so high on them this year, is because if you're going to start a year bad and instantly eliminate yourself from national championship contention, and that was your goal, then the only thing you can do is get better each and every week and learn from your mistakes. And as long as you do that in some roundabout way, the season was a success. And that's something that LSU can hang their hat on. So which experience matters more, the length of it or the bigger moments?
That's a good question. You could probably make an argument for both. In my opinion, with this situation, I would say that the quality of the experience, like with Mac Johnson having, he's 2-0 as a starter, right? Then of course he had playing time against Alabama and some other schools. TJ Finley probably has the most experience of all those guys as far as like games started, if I'm not mistaken. I think he started the majority of the games, so he has experience too. And then I would say with Miles Brennan experience, he only had I think he started the first 3 games before he got hurt, but his experience is more of, okay, what does it take to be a college quarterback? He's been in the system for several years now. Even though he didn't start, he has the experience of being in a college system, from the weight room, the offseason kind of implementation, and he's been through, the full offseason. Compared to, this is Max Johnson and TJ Finley's first full offseason to go through now, right? So I think from the quality experience, you're probably going Max Johnson, but just like the overall experience being a college athlete, Miles Brennan has that. But how much does that really matter right now is kind of up in the air.
So now let's talk. LSU gets an entire new system, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this is going to be modeled more based off of the Joe Brady system, if we had to guess. So with that in mind, break me down one by one, starting with Brennan to Finley and then Johnson. What do each of them offer that LSU fans can look forward to and that you see being a super good fit into this new scheme that we think they will be running?
Yeah. So we'll go Brennan first. So Brennan, if we think it is Brady's system, he's already technically been that system as a backup when Joe Burrow was there, right? So he is going to be familiar with terminology, familiar with schemes, and so he has that going for him. And the fact, like we talked about earlier, I think his ball placement ability and his kind of mature throws, if you will, his ability to throw guys open, is kind of what he has in his favor. He's kind of more advanced level thinking in that. With Max Johnson, you're going to see probably a little more Joe Burrow, not comparing the two, obviously, but you're going to see that style a bit more where his legs are going to play a bigger factor. Not that he's going to be centered around his running game, but the defense knowing that he is an athletic quarterback and he's going to use his legs not just to run, but to buy time and have his receivers get open. That's another thing that defenses have to prepare for. So I think you have a lot more variety with Max Johnson that can be run from that offense. And with TJ Finley, the fact that you have to cover every blade of grass on the field because of his arm strength, and that he's going to be able to take the top off the defense, especially with LSU's receivers. That's going to be a pretty scary thing for defenses, knowing he can make any throw on the field. And if he just puts the ball in the vicinity of these receivers, the chances of them catching it over, my DB are pretty high because they're so good. So I think they all have those different aspects that can be brought, and depending who wins, the offense can center that around the guy and kind of center the scheme around the starter.
Yeah, and because of what you just said, and if you've been hearing me click, I've been going through LSU's past season, looking at defensive. I want to know how the offensive line is. And even though we talked about before, it's LSU, we know the offensive line will come together in some capacity. There is a guy that I actually have as a favorite in this battle, and it's absolutely not because of what the other two guys can't do, right? I think they're incredibly talented, but it's because he can do. And when I look at the SEC right now, I see a ton of pass rushers who are rearing and ready to go. Because of that, if you have a new system, you're trying to get the running game going. Max Johnson, to me, is going to be incredibly hard to keep off the field with his running ability because he is a real athlete. Now, in a time like this, when there's new systems, in your experience, would you rather have the proficient pocket passer who is completely polished from that aspect of the game when you have all those receiving threats to the outside, or the guy who can maybe get outside the pocket a little bit more? Like, how much does that matter? And the reason I ask is because if you didn't have the talented wide receivers LSU has, absolutely go with the more mobile guy. You're going to need it. But this is a university that is not short on talent on the outside. So where do you lean right there?
Yeah, I think I lean with you for the same points and the same kind of statements that you made. I lean with Max Johnson because of his athletic ability, but I think he's a hell of a thrower too. I think he's got a lot of tools in the passing department as well. And what impresses me about Max Johnson, and if we're going back to just kind of what we see in film, is his ability to process information and process it fairly quickly from his pre-snap read to his post-snap read. So that's what impressed me about Max Johnson. And so even if he doesn't have the stronger arm like TJ Finley, or even if Miles Brennan maybe throws a more catchable ball again off, just a few games, Max Johnson's ability to process information tells me he's got more than enough ability to throw the ball where the ball needs to go, but he's also able to decipher the defense how he needs to. And as a true freshman, doing it against Florida was hell of impressive. Ole Miss was Ole Miss defense, but still it's SEC defense and still a true freshman. So I tend to lean Max Johnson for the same reasons you mentioned, but also for his ability to process that information like we talked about.
Yeah, I think that when you're breaking in a new system, having that ability to escape out the pocket and buy yourself that much more time is just going to be better for everybody. And especially when I look at LSU's running backs, John Emery Jr. is a guy that absolutely should be involved in the passing game, right? I mean, he is deadly in all aspects. Brennan, though, is a guy that it's such a weird dichotomy, because if Brennan trots out week 1, I don't think anybody is surprised at all. And even though I think Finley is phenomenal, I actually think he'd probably be the most surprising of the 3. And like I said, it's not because of what he can't do. I mean, he's incredibly talented. It's just that you have the proven experience in Brennan and then the unbridled upside of Max Johnson. Now, with Ed Orgeron and all of them turning to an entirely new system, does that have any effect on one of these guys maybe transferring out? Like, how does that weigh out now? Because there's only one quarterback and we have 3 really talented dudes.
Yeah. No, that's a great question. That's probably something that's been talked about within the coaches right now, if I had to imagine. From the outside looking in, my initial guess would be after spring practice, there'll be the writing will be on the wall for someone, right? Like 3 guys can't have a third of first team snaps, right? For the majority of spring. They can have for a few practices, but you're going to need guys to have, not as equal reps once guys start pulling away from the pack. So I think the writing will be on the wall. So it would not surprise me to see someone potentially get in the transfer portal out of these 3 guys after spring. I think there's actually going to be this is a whole nother topic. I think it's going to be an influx of quarterbacks after spring into the transfer portal again, but that's another topic. But also wouldn't surprise me for LSU to find a way to, because they want to keep all 3 guys, to find a way to maybe give all of them equal time and try to keep all of them there, because once fall comes around, they can be saying, hey, we're really getting the competition when fall comes around. So I can definitely see that happening. I probably lean towards more that someone transferring does happen, but I think LSU is probably going to do everything in their power to, elongate this competition till right before the game starts. Even if they know who's going to start, I think they probably keep that pretty secretive so no one transfers, or at least try to.
Yeah, and that's been just kind of the MO of quarterback battles of recent, right? I mean, aside from a few, the most iconic is the 2017 game where they trot out onto the field for the Alabama USC, and Saban kind of is a little bit angry at the reporters because they keep asking who his quarterback is. And then the next year, when it's the Tua Jalen situation, we have Saban trying to kind of snapping at Maria Taylor, because once again, it's like, who's the quarterback? And so that's kind of not a surprise. And as I've been doing some research, just kind of looking at the LSU offensive line, it looks like a unit that has a lot of upside, some things to be excited about, but a unit that absolutely might need a little bit of help in the regards of escapability. And because of that, I'm going to have to almost double down on the Max Johnson, because I do believe that he can be developed into a Brennan level passer. And Brennan, I think, is a guy that we need to understand was incredibly successful when he was playing with LSU. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like we looked at Brennan and was like, he's the problem with LSU when they weren't. But because of that, and you look at guys like Will Anderson, Chris Allen, just on Alabama, I mean, they feasted against TJ Finley. Anderson notching 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss. Because of that, I think Johnson's the guy that comes in there and can kind of get some different stuff going. But who knows, right? I think you're in a great battle.
I agree.
Because it's one of those times where whoever wins, you got to feel very confident in. And I really like what you said at the beginning. This is probably the closest cut of all of the quarterback battles we've looked at and may even look at going forward. Because, the craziest part is we didn't even mention Nussmeier, the true freshman who just got on campus that is coming in with rave reviews out of the North Texas area, who is thought to be one of the best quarterbacks in the nation out of last year's class. That's just how talented that quarterback room is at LSU. Now, have you checked out much of Nussmeier?
Just briefly, but nothing like I have the other three guys. Yeah.
Yeah, but you think it's pretty safe that it's probably a battle between these three?
I would assume so. Yeah, I think it's pretty safe, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as talented as I think Nuss is, and he's incredibly talented, it hurts when there are also very talented guys in front of you that have the experience.
Exactly.
That's going to be big. But hey, I mean, he certainly has the ability to come in here and shock people.
Yeah, crazier things have happened, right? I mean, like maybe we'll eat our words in a few months, right? Like
that'd be pretty awesome to see. So LSU has a great problem to have, but let us know down in the comments who you think ultimately wins the battle. I think we're probably both erring on the side of Max Johnson, but it is a great problem to have, especially when you have to replace so many coaches that your quarterback battle is full of elite talent. That's exactly where you want to be with the receivers, with the running backs, and with the new coaches. So thank y'all so much for checking out the video. As always, and once again, be sure to head over to Quarterback Spotlight's YouTube channel. What do you have coming up next so that people can kind of know what to look forward to from you?
So we got a few more SEC quarterback breakdowns with Texas A&M coming out. One other school I'm just missing right now coming out. And then we'll have some NFL draft breakdowns. Zach Wilson's pro days today, so we'll have that coming out tomorrow for the draft. But then every quarterback competition going on in the spring, we want to do something to put out there. So that's kind of what we've got going on.
Yeah, it's going to be a ton of fun, man. I really appreciate it. And as always, thank y'all for tuning in. That's it. See ya.